Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I am Priya Venkatraman from Ponvidyashram School. We have discussed about microorganisms and the structure of microscope in our previous session. In this session, we will learn about the types of microbes. Microbes are broadly classified into 5 groups: bacteria, fungi, algae, protozoa, and virus. Let me repeat: bacteria, fungi, algae, protozoa, and virus. Let us start from bacteria. Bacteria is the plural form, bacterium is the singular form. These are the oldest life form. Almost all the bacteria are unicellular in nature. They are found in different shapes. You can find bacteria everywhere that they can survive even under extreme conditions. Some of the bacteria can survive even extremely high temperature and low temperature as well. They live even in humans' body and derive nutrition from the body. They live in colonies. They do not exist in isolation. Some of the bacteria are autotrophic in nature and some of them are heterotrophic. Auto, self. Autotrophic, they are able to prepare their own food. Heterotrophic depends on other organisms. Some of the bacteria are aerobic in nature. Aerobic, they require oxygen for their survival. And some of the bacteria, they do not require oxygen for their survival. These are called anaerobic bacteria. Based on their shape, they are classified into 4 more categories: Coccus, Bacillus, Spirillum, Vibrio. Let me repeat: Coccus, Bacillus, Spirillum, Vibrio. Coccus bacteria are spherical in shape. Bacillus are rod in shape. Spirillum, they are spirally twisted. And Vibrio, they are comma in shape. Got it? So based on the shape, they are classified. You know something? There are about 100 million bacteria in each gram of soil. They are present in human's body, ruminant stomach. How they are useful to us? They synthesize some B-complex vitamins which help in digesting food. This is the case of human. Then what is the use of these bacteria in ruminants? In ruminants, they help to digest cellulose. Hope you all have understood. Okay? Let me move on to the second subtopic, fungi. When you keep a piece of bread outside for a couple of days, you can see some green color patches on the bread. What is the green color patch? Or you can see sometimes spongy like structures which is dirty white in color or greenish in color. What are they? This green spongy structure appears due to the growth of fungi. In other words, you can say this as bread mold. Can anyone say what is a bread mold? You know very well. It is mucor. Yes. When this green patch is kept under the microscope, you can see some thread-like structures at the bottom and some head-like structure or bag-like structure at the top. Okay. The thread-like structures are known as hypha and the bag-like structure is known as sporangium, which contains spores. These spores will take part in the reproduction process. Okay, bread mold is green in color. So, can we say they contain chlorophyll? No, they do not contain chlorophyll. Then how do they derive their nutrition? They are saprophytes or parasites. Saprophytes, what do you mean by saprophytes? They feed on dead and decayed matter. Then parasites, they live on other living organism. In this way, they derive their nutrition. Some of the fungi are unicellular, some of them are multicellular. Can anyone say an edible fungi? Mushroom. Yes, mushroom is an example of multicellular fungi and it is edible fungi. Then Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. I am Priya Venkatraman from Pon Vidyashram School. When you go near a water body, you can see some plant-like organisms over the surface of the water body. What are they? They are algae. So, in this session, we are going to discuss about algae and protozoa. Algae are green in color. Unlike other microbes, they contain chlorophyll. They do photosynthesis. They are usually aquatic. Unlike plants, they do not have roots, stems, or leaves. They are found in freshwater, marine water, in damp soil, in damp places and moist places. Sometimes they grow on the rock surfaces or barks of the trees, sometimes on the walls. Listen, all the microorganisms need warmth and moisture for their growth. When you keep a piece of bread in the refrigerator, you cannot find the growth of microorganism because in the refrigerator the temperature is quite low. Warmth and moisture are the favorable conditions for the growth of microbes. We used to apply manures and fertilizers to the soil for the plant's growth. The soil in the field will gain the nutrients. Sometimes the factory or sewage water is discharged into the water body. Quite often this happens. These wastewater also contains nutrients. The enrichment of water bodies by plant nutrients is called eutrophication. It leads to an unnatural rapid growth of algae which form a thick layer over the surface of the water body, referred as algal bloom. Algal bloom occurs in the sea also, in the sea or even in the ocean. The denser layer of algae deprive other organisms of light and oxygen. One more disadvantage is also there. When the thick growth of algae on the surface of water body, actually what will happen once the algae die, what will happen? The bacteria, the decomposers, they used to decompose the algae. They need some oxygen for the decomposition. From where do they will get the oxygen? The bacteria obtain all the oxygen only from the water body. You know very well, in the water body oxygen is dissolved, right? All the aquatic animals, they breathe the dissolved oxygen. If the oxygen is utilized to decompose the algae, what will happen? There will be some deficiency of oxygen for the aquatic animals. So, aquatic animal chances are there that the aquatic animal may die. Examples of algae: chlorella, seaweeds and chlamydomonas. Clear? The next one is protozoa. A well-known example is amoeba. They are unicellular and microscopic. Protozoa are notable for their ability to move independently. They are traditionally looked upon as animals because most protozoans are animal-like. Protozoa, in fact, means the first animal. Even protozoans like Euglena, which contain chlorophyll and can photosynthesize. So, Euglena is an exception. Why? Because they contain chlorophyll. They do photosynthesis. Clear? The others are either saprophytic or parasitic. Some live in fresh water and some live in marine water. And some live in soil also. Many live in the bodies of animals and plants. Protozoans are the link in the food chain between unicellular algae and small aquatic organisms. In other words, protozoa eat algae and protozoans are eaten by small fish and other organisms. You remember that amoeba engulfs food with the help of pseudopodia. Amoeba it contains the false feet, which is known as pseudopodia. This will be utilized for its locomotion also. It is the simplest of protozoan found in the soil and freshwater bodies. Paramecium is another freshwater protozoa found in ponds and ditches. Paramecium, it contains some hair-like projections are known as cilia, which help the paramecium to swim and to move from one place to another place. So, protozoa, they use pseudopodia, cilia and flagella, tail-like structure as their locomotory organ. Thank you. Shri Guru Namaha. And here I am going to explain about the last category of microorganisms, that is about viruses. Virus is the singular form, viruses are the plural form. The word virus means poisonous liquid. These are the smallest organisms. They can only be visualized under an electron microscope, not even with a compound microscope. Even the scientists, they are under big confusion whether they have to categorize these viruses into living beings or non-living beings. Viruses are something between the living and the non-living beings. They are acellular. Acellular means that they do not have any of the substances contained in a cell. About the cell structure and function, you will learn in your next biology chapter. Here I will explain in short. A cell contains main three parts, that is cell organelle, nucleus and cytoplasm. Clear? Cell, you know what is a cell. Cell is the basic and structural functional unit of living organisms. Okay. They consist of a bit of nuclear material wrapped in a protein coat. In the case of virus, they consist only a nuclear material, that is a bit of nuclear material wrapped in a protein coat. They cannot reproduce unless they enter the cell of a living organisms. When they are outside, they act like a non-living being. They cannot reproduce, they cannot move. Okay, they behave like a non-living being. But when they enter into a host cell, what do you mean by host cell? When you call your friends to attend your birthday party, you are the host, your friends are your guest. Now you got it? What is the meaning of host? Yes. Here the virus is considered as some microbe which will be outside when it enters into a living being or inside a human body or plant's body. The plant's body or living being is considered as the host cell. Clear? Unless they enter the host of a living organism, they cannot reproduce. Clear? They do not use energy to grow. They do not respond to stimuli. This is one of the major difference between a living being and non-living being. Since they cannot grow and reproduce when they are outside, they are considered as non-living beings. But when a virus enters the cell of a living organism, it is able to multiply and produce hundreds of viruses within the host cell. The nuclear material of the host cell gets destroyed and the nuclear material of the virus takes over. The host cell finally bursts to release the viruses which infects other cell. In this way, more and more healthy cells are taken over and destroyed by viruses, making the host organism ill. Clear? So, when they are outside, they behave like a non-living thing. When they enter into a host body, it behaves like a living being. That's what it is in the borderline. Clear? All viruses cause diseases and they are parasites. They can infect plants, animals and even